We have to make sure it looks like an accident.
Friday, 3:47 p.m. Don't be late!
Last Tuesday I discovered I was supposed to die on Friday at 3:47 p.m. My husband had it all planned out. The accidental fall down our basement stairs. The tearful 911 call. Even the black dress his mistress would wear to comfort the grieving widower at my funeral. The insurance payout was $2 million. Enough for them to start their new life together in Tuscany. Sipping wine while my body rotted in the ground. I was upstairs in our master bedroom, folding Mark's work shirts with the same care I'd shown for 12 years of marriage. The laundry basket sat on our king-size bed. The bed where I trusted him, loved him, planned our future. The baby monitor crackled to life. We'd installed it last year when my elderly mother visited so we could hear if she needed help downstairs. At first, I thought Mark was on another work call. His consulting business had been booming lately, requiring so many late-night strategy sessions. Then I heard her voice. Sarah Martinez, my best friend since college. My maid of honor. The woman who'd held my hair back when I had food poisoning on my honeymoon. The insurance investigator won't suspect anything if it looks like an accident. She was saying, her voice clinical and cold. Basement stairs are perfect. Women of her age fall all the time, especially clumsy ones like her. Clumsy ones like me. My hands went numb. The basket of clothes hit the hardwood floor with a soft thud. Mark's favorite blue tie spilling across the Persian rug we'd bought together in Istanbul. Friday works perfectly, my husband replied, his voice carrying the same tone he used to discuss quarterly projections. She always does laundry at the same time. Creature of habit. I'll call her down to check something. Give her a little push, and then we're free. Sarah finished, her voice practically purring with satisfaction. Free to be together. Free to travel. Free to live the life we deserve, without that pathetic woman dragging us down. I pressed my ear closer to the monitor. My heart hammering so loud I was afraid they'd hear it through the floor. That's when I realized they weren't just planning to leave me. They were planning to kill me. In exactly 3 days. 6 months ago, I thought I had everything. Mark and I had been married 12 years. Beautiful colonial in Westchester. Annual trips to Tuscany. Dinner parties that made neighbors jealous. I was marketing director at a tech startup. He ran his consulting firm. We looked like the perfect couple. But perfect marriages don't crack. They shatter. It started 3 months ago after our anniversary party. Mark working late more often, claiming the Peterson account was demanding. Phone face down during dinner. New cologne that made my stomach turn. When I asked about changes, he'd kiss my forehead patronizingly. Just stressed about work, babe. Sarah started acting strange, too. Our Tuesday wine nights became awkward. Constant phone checking. Cut conversation short. Maybe plan a surprise date she'd suggested last week. Avoiding my eyes. Remind him what he has at home. What he had was a wife worth $2 million dead. The signs were everywhere. Late night work emails. Sarah knowing his schedule better than me. Both pushing me to increase life insurance for security last month. I was so naive, so trusting. While I planned our anniversary dinner, they planned my funeral. Now I understood why everything changed 3 months ago. Their affair started. Sarah began studying my marriage, looking for weaknesses to exploit. Every suggestion was designed to keep me trusting, vulnerable, walking toward my grave. While I worried about saving my marriage, she was planning to end it permanently. But I heard every word through that baby monitor on Tuesday. After hearing them, through the baby monitor on Tuesday, I crept downstairs like a ghost in my own home. I pressed my ear to the basement door, the cool wood grounding me in this impossible reality. They were still talking, voices echoing off concrete walls. You're absolutely sure about Friday's timing? Mark asked, and I could hear him pacing. His nervous habit during important calls. I've watched her for months, Sarah replied casually, making my blood freeze. Every Friday, 3:30 laundry, 3:45 in the basement. Organizing those ridiculous storage shelves. She's so predictable, it's insulting. She'll have her back to the stairs, completely focused. My best friend had been stalking me in my own home. Call her down to check the furnace. Sarah continued with instructional precision. Tell her it's making that weird noise. You know how she worries. When she bends down to listen, push hard. She falls backward, hits concrete. Tragic accident. The investigation won't happen. I've researched this. Pride filled her voice. 40-year-old woman. Basement stairs. Happens daily. Especially when her loving husband finds her in complete hysterics. They were discussing my murder like vacation planning. I already picked my funeral outfit, Sarah added, making me bite my hand to stay silent. Black with lace. Classy but not too sad. I want to look good comforting you. People expect me to be there. I'm her best friend. She was planning her wardrobe for my death. 6 months for appearances. Then Tuscany, she said dreamily, just like we've talked about, like you and she used to do, except with someone who appreciates you. Tuscany, where Mark had proposed on a hillside overlooking vineyards. I've wanted your life since your anniversary party, Sarah whispered hungrily. Watching you play happy couple while I went home alone. Now I'll have everything I deserve. I backed away Tuesday night, legs shaking. I had 3 days to save my life. I stayed hidden Tuesday night and listened to every sick, twisted detail of my planned murder. 3:47 p.m. exactly on Friday, Sarah said, and I could hear her checking something, probably her phone or a notebook where she'd been planning this. Like a business presentation. She'll be down there reorganizing those storage shelves. For the 3rd time this month. God, she's so obsessive about that basement. How can you be so sure she'll be there at that exact time? Because I planted the idea, you idiot. Sarah snapped, her mask of sweetness slipping for a moment. Last week I told her the basement looked cluttered and suggested she organize it on Fridays when she has more energy after her morning yoga class. She's been doing it religiously ever since. Predictable little mouse. Even my cleaning schedule was part of their elaborate plan. Every suggestion, every casual comment about my habits, it had all been manipulation. You call about the furnace noise, Sarah instructed, her voice taking on the tone of a director coaching an actor. Use that concerned husband voice you do so well. Tell her it's making that weird rattling sound again and you're worried about carbon monoxide or something. She come running. You know how she panics about house problems. I did panic about house problems. After my parents died in that car accident caused by a mechanical failure they'd ignored, I'd become obsessive about maintenance and safety. Sarah knew this. She'd comforted me through countless anxiety attacks about furnace inspections and electrical problems. When she bends down to listen to the furnace, you push hard. She falls backward. Head hits that concrete floor. Multiple impact points from tumbling down those steep stairs. Sarah's voice was clinical, detached, like she was describing a recipe. Head injuries are unpredictable. Perfect cover for why she might not survive. What if she doesn't die immediately? Mark's voice was smaller, now uncertain. Then you finish it. Sarah's response was immediate. Matter of fact. Make it look like she hit her head multiple times, falling down. Head trauma is messy and confusing. The EMTs won't question it, especially when they see her devoted husband sobbing over her body. My stomach lurched. They were discussing the details of my death like they were planning a dinner menu. The insurance pays out $2 million, Sarah continued, and I could hear the greed in her voice. No mortgage, no debt, no needy wife constantly asking where you are and what you're doing. We wait 6 months for appearances, long enough for people to stop watching us so closely, then we disappear. What about suspicion? Won't people think it's strange if we get together so soon after? There won't be any suspicion. I've researched this for months. Mark. Domestic. Accidents barely get investigated, unless there are obvious signs of foul play. Grieving widowers get sympathy, not scrutiny. And who would suspect, sweet Sarah? The devoted best friend, who's just helping her friend's husband through his darkest hour. You've really thought of everything. I've been planning this since I realized I wanted everything you have. Your house, your money, your husband, your perfect little life. The only thing standing in my way is her. And after Friday, that problem will be permanently solved. After Friday, I'll be the grieving best friend, helping you through your tragic loss. Everyone will think it's beautiful and romantic how we found love in the ashes of tragedy. A real-life love story born from shared grief. They were planning to build their happiness on my grave to turn my death into their meet-cute story. Tuesday night, I knew I needed proof. Real, undeniable evidence that would destroy them both and ensure they never hurt anyone else. I had Wednesday and Thursday to gather it. And I was going to make every hour count. Wednesday morning, I woke up with a clarity I'd never experienced before. The woman who had gone to bed Tuesday night, trusting, naive, willing to see the best in everyone, was gone. In her place was someone harder, smarter, and absolutely determined to survive. First, priority. Proof. Their word against mine wouldn't work in any scenario. Who would believe that sweet Sarah Martinez, the woman who organized charity drives and brought soup when I was sick, could plan a murder? Who would believe that Mark Thompson, the devoted husband who still brought me coffee in bed on weekends, was rehearsing my death? I needed evidence so overwhelming that denial would be impossible. I started by planting my old iPhone in the basement. Hidden behind paint cans on a shelf marked, "Never touched." I set it to record continuously with enough battery and storage to capture everything. Then I installed a hidden camera app on Mark's laptop while he was in his morning shower, singing off-key like he did every day, completely oblivious to the fact that his wife was now his hunter, instead of his prey. Over Wednesday and Thursday, I became a spy in my own home, moving through spaces I'd lived in for 8 years, like I was seeing them for the first time. Wednesday evening, they met again in the basement. I recorded everything through the baby monitor. "Let's practice the 911 call again," Sarah was saying, her voice carrying the patience of a drama teacher working with a particularly slow student. "You need to sound panicked, but not rehearsed. Devastated, but coherent enough to give the dispatcher information. Help." My wife fell down the stairs. Mark practiced his voice, cracking with fake emotion. "She's not breathing. Please hurry. There's so much blood." "Better, but more emotion. You just lost the love of your life. Remember the woman you've been married to for 12 years. Let that grief consume you." "Oh God, please help me. My wife, she fell. I think she's dead. There's blood everywhere. Please hurry." Perfect. That's Oscar-worthy grief right there. I recorded 15 minutes of them rehearsing my death, perfecting the performance that would sell my murder as a tragic accident. Thursday morning, I caught Sarah arriving early for what she told me was a quick coffee before work. Instead, I watched through the kitchen window as she walked around our house, timing routes, studying angles. She even went into the basement, and I crept close enough to hear her practicing her devastated friend act. Poor Mark. She rehearsed to the empty basement, her voice breaking with fake emotion. "I'll help him through this difficult time." It's what she would have wanted. She'd want him to be happy again. Thursday afternoon, I made my insurance calls. I called my sister in California, my lawyer, Mark's business partner. I sent copies of the recordings to 5 different people with detailed instructions. "If anything happens to me Friday, release these immediately to the police and the media." But Thursday evening, I made the most important call of my life. Detective Rodriguez answered on the second ring. "I need help," I said, my voice steadier than I'd expected. "My life is in danger tomorrow, and I have proof." Because I wasn't just gathering evidence anymore. I was setting a trap for Friday, and I was going to make sure it was perfect. Thursday evening, Mark came home unexpectedly while I was making final adjustments to the hidden camera in the basement. I heard his car in the driveway, and felt my heart stop. He wasn't supposed to be back from his client dinner for another 2 hours. If he found me down here, if he discovered the recording equipment, he might decide to move up their timeline. I froze behind the water heater, phone clutched in my trembling hand. The basement door creaked open above me, the sound echoing off the concrete walls like a death knell. "Honey, you down there?" His voice carried a strange edge I'd never heard before. Something cold and calculating, that made my skin crawl. "Just checking that furnace noise." I called back, shoving my phone into my pocket, and trying to keep my voice steady. "It's been acting up, again." Perfect. I was inadvertently giving him his cover story. The excuse he'd use to lure me to my death tomorrow. His footsteps came down the stairs slowly, deliberately. Each step seemed to echo with malicious intent. I could feel him studying the space, probably visualizing exactly how my body would look crumpled at the bottom of these same steps in 18 hours. "Find anything wrong?" he asked. But his voice was different now. The warm, loving tone I'd known for 12 years had been replaced by something clinical and detached. "Nothing serious," I managed, standing up and brushing dust off my jeans. "Just wanted to make sure it wasn't anything that would cause problems." He walked over to where I stood close enough that I could smell that new cologne. The scent he wore for her, not for me. For a terrifying moment, I thought he might push me right then and there. "Ended a day early, claim I'd fallen while investigating the furnace problem. Instead, he reached out and kissed the top of my head, with the same gentle affection he'd shown me for over a decade. "You're such a good wife," he said softly, his hand resting on my shoulder. "Always taking care of everything, always thinking ahead. I don't know what I'd do without you." The words made my skin crawl. In 18 hours, this man, the man I'd loved, trusted, built a life with, planned to murder me in cold blood. And he was standing here touching me, speaking words of love, while calculating the exact force needed to crack my skull open. "I've got that big client meeting tomorrow," he said, heading back toward the stairs. "Probably won't be home until after 4. Don't wait up if I'm running late." 4 p.m. exactly 13 minutes after my scheduled death. His perfect airtight alibi. After he left, I sat on the basement floor and called Detective Rodriguez back. "It's Emma Thompson again. Tomorrow is the day. Friday, 3:47 p.m. Are you ready?" Tomorrow was Friday, murder day. But I was ready. Friday morning, I finalized the plan with Detective Rodriguez. "We need to catch him in the actual attempt," Rodriguez said. "The moment he tries to push you, we move in." "I understand, but you have to be close enough to stop him before he actually hurts me. We'll be positioned where we can see everything. The second he makes a move, it's over." At 2 p.m., I called Sarah. "Hey girl," I said, injecting fear into my voice. "Can you come over? I'm really scared. Mark's been acting so strange. And I have this horrible feeling something's going to happen today." "Of course, sweetie. I'll be right there." She was coming to watch the show, my murder, up close. At 3 p.m., Detective Rodriguez and 2 officers took their positions. Rodriguez hid in the basement storage room with a clear view of the stairs. Detective Chin positioned herself in the kitchen where she could see the basement door. Officer Martinez waited outside, ready to prevent any escape. Professional recording equipment captured everything. At 3:30, Sarah arrived with wine and fake concern. "What's wrong, honey?" "I don't know. I just feel like something terrible is about to happen." At 3:40, we heard Mark's car in the driveway. Sarah checked her watch. 7 minutes until showtime. Mark entered the house at 3:43. Right on schedule. "Hey babe," he called out cheerfully. "How was your day?" "Fine," I replied, my heart pounding. Sarah came over to keep me company. "That's nice." His voice carried that false warmth I'd learned to recognize. "Hey, can you do me a favor? That furnace is making that weird noise again. Can you go check it? I'm worried about carbon monoxide." This was it. The moment they'd planned for months. "Sure," I said loudly enough for the hidden officers to hear. "I'll go look right now." "I'll come with you," Mark said, his voice suddenly taking on a different tone. "Just to make sure everything's okay." Sarah stayed upstairs, probably positioning herself to watch through the basement door. I walked toward the basement knowing that in 4 minutes my husband planned to murder me. But Detective Rodriguez was waiting in the shadows and Mark was about to walk into the trap of his life. I descended the basement stairs with Mark right behind me, his footsteps heavier than usual. At the bottom, I walked toward the furnace, playing my part perfectly. "I don't hear anything unusual," I said, bending down as if to listen. Mark moved closer, positioning himself between me and the stairs. This was exactly how they'd planned it. Me vulnerable, him with the perfect angle to push. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice strangely calm. "Listen closer." I pretended to lean in further, giving him the perfect opportunity. In the storage room, I could see Detective Rodriguez's shadow, ready to move. At exactly 3:47 p.m., Mark raised his hands. "Actually, honey," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "There's something I need to tell you." He stepped forward, hands reaching toward my back. "Freeze, police." Detective Rodriguez burst from the storage room, weapon drawn. "Step away from her." "No." Mark spun around, his face going white with shock and terror. "What? How?" "Mark Thompson, you're under arrest for attempted murder." Detective Chen's voice echoed from upstairs. "We've got the accomplice." 2 more officers thundered down the stairs, as Mark stood frozen, his hands still positioned to push me to my death. "I wasn't going to. This isn't what it looks like," Mark stammered. "Really?" I turned to face him, pulling out my phone. "Because I have 3 days of recordings that say otherwise." I pressed play, and his voice filled the basement. "I'll call her down to check something. Give her a little push, and then we're free." Sarah's voice followed. "When she bends down to listen, Push hard. She falls backward, hits concrete. You've been planning my murder for months, I said, watching his face crumble as he realized how completely he'd been caught. Every detail, every timeline, every lie. Emma, please. I can explain. Explain what? How you rehearsed my 911 call. How you planned to comfort each other over my dead body. How you researched the best way to crack my skull open. As they cuffed him, Mark looked at the furnace, then at the stairs, then at me. Alive and unharmed, when I should have been bleeding out on the concrete floor. You knew, he whispered. You knew everything. I knew you were planning to murder me at exactly 3:47 p.m. Today, I knew Sarah was upstairs waiting to comfort you. I knew you thought you were smarter than everyone else. Sarah's voice carried down from upstairs as they arrested her. This is insane. We never actually did anything. Ma'am, Detective Chin replied. We just watched your accomplice attempt to murder his wife exactly as you planned. That's not conspiracy anymore. That's attempted murder. As they led Mark away, he looked back at me one final time. I loved you, he said. No, I replied. You loved my life insurance policy. There's a difference. But what happened next was even better than I'd planned. The Friday arrests made national news by Saturday morning, and by Sunday, our story was trending on every social media platform in America. Woman foils best friend's murder plot became the headline that launched 1,000 think pieces about trust, betrayal, and the dark side of seemingly perfect relationships. The recordings played on every major news station, with legal experts calling it one of the most detailed premeditation cases in recent memory. Mark's consulting business collapsed within 48 hours. By Monday morning, every client had canceled their contracts after hearing him rehearse my death on the evening news. His business partner called me personally to apologize and offer any assistance I needed. The Peterson account, the one that had supposedly been causing all his stress, turned out to be fictional. Just another lie in a web of deception that stretched back months. The trials were swift and brutal, like watching a perfectly choreographed dance of justice. Mark got 25 years for conspiracy to commit murder. His lawyer tried every angle. Temporary insanity, emotional distress, even claiming the recordings were taken out of context. But the 3 days of detailed planning, the rehearsed 911 calls, and the precise timeline proved clear intent beyond any reasonable doubt. The judge called it one of the most cold-blooded and calculated murder plots she'd ever seen. Sarah got 20 years as the mastermind, and her trial revealed details that made my blood run cold. Her browser history was a prosecutor's dream and a victim's nightmare. Months of research on accidental deaths, insurance fraud cases, even YouTube videos on how to fake grief convincingly, and signs of genuine versus performed emotion. The insurance company launched their own investigation and discovered that Sarah had been asking detailed questions about my policies for weeks, posing as a concerned friend, helping me get my affairs in order. That added federal fraud charges to her already lengthy sentence. Mark's family, his parents, his brother, even his teenage niece, who used to call me Aunt Emma, disowned him completely. They sent me a letter apologizing for his actions and expressing their horror at what he'd planned. Sarah lost everything. Her job at the marketing firm, her downtown apartment, her reputation, her freedom. Their dreams of Tuscany and wine country became nightmares of orange jumps and prison cells. But the sweetest justice came from an unexpected source. The media attention brought other victims out of the shadows. 4 women came forward over the following weeks, each with a similar story. Sarah had befriended them over the past 2 years, gradually working her way into their lives, asking increasingly specific questions about their finances, their routines, their relationships, their insurance policies. The FBI opened a federal investigation into what they called a possible serial pattern of predatory behavior. It turned out that Sarah Martinez had been practicing on other women, perfecting her technique, learning what worked and what didn't. I wasn't her first intended victim. I was just the first one smart enough to catch her. My would-be murderers became the most hated couple in America, their faces plastered across tabloids and true crime podcasts. The insurance company even gave me a substantial reward for exposing what they called one of the most sophisticated fraud attempts in company history. 1 year later, on the anniversary of the day I was supposed to die, my phone rang with a familiar number. County Jail. You have a collect call from Sarah Martinez. Will you accept the charges? I almost hung up immediately, but curiosity, the same curiosity that had saved my life, won out. Please, her voice cracked through the static. I need you to forgive me. Forgive you. I almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. For planning my murder, for studying my routines like a predator, for rehearsing how you'd comfort my husband over my dead body. I wasn't thinking straight. Her voice was smaller now, stripped of the confidence and calculation I remembered. Love makes you do crazy things. You understand that, right? You loved Mark once. You know how love can make you lose yourself. Love doesn't make you plan someone's death, Sarah. Love doesn't make you research accidental murders, or practice fake grief in mirrors. That wasn't love. That was sociopathy, with a romantic soundtrack. Please. The word came out as a whisper. I'm going crazy in here. The other inmates know what I did. They call me the Black Widow friend and the insurance killer. They won't let me eat in peace. They put things in my food. I just need to know that you don't hate me. I need something to hold on to. I looked out the window of my new house. A beautiful craftsman in Vermont. Far from the suburban nightmare, where I'd almost died. My garden was in full bloom. Sunflowers reaching toward the sky, bright and tall, and impossible to kill. I'd planted them as a symbol of survival. Of thriving despite attempts to destroy you. I don't hate you, I said finally, and I meant it. So, you forgive me? No, I'll never forgive you, but I won't waste another second of my precious life thinking about you either. You're already dead to me. Sarah, you died the moment you decided my life was worth less than your happiness. I hung up without waiting for her response. That was 3 years ago. Sarah calls every few months, always with the same desperate plea for forgiveness. For some acknowledgement that she's still human. I never answer anymore. Mark writes letters that I burn unopened, his handwriting growing shakier with each attempt to reach me from his cell. As for me, I sold the house that weekend after the arrests, unable to spend another night in a place where my murder had been planned in such detail. I started my own consulting firm, ironically, helping other women escape dangerous relationships and rebuild their lives. The business is thriving, built on a foundation of hard-won wisdom about recognizing predators in sheep's clothing. I traveled to Tuscany alone that first summer, reclaiming the place that had been stolen from me in their fantasies. I learned Italian from a patient teacher named Marco, took cooking classes from a grandmother, who adopted me as her honorary granddaughter, and fell in love with my life again in ways I'd never thought possible. I wrote a book about those 3 days that changed everything. The baby monitor murders. How I caught my best friend planning my death, became a bestseller, spawning a documentary, a podcast series, and a movie deal that sold for more than Mark's insurance policy would have paid out. The irony wasn't lost on me. Their plan to profit from my death had instead made me wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. The woman they tried to kill, trusting, naive, willing to see the best in everyone, was gone forever. In her place was someone stronger, wiser, and absolutely unbreakable. Someone who understood that the best revenge isn't just living well. It's living so well that your enemy's worst nightmares pale in comparison to your everyday reality. Looking back, I'm grateful they tried to kill me. It saved my life in ways they never could have imagined. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to die when someone wants you dead. And I'm living better than I ever dreamed possible.